Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading The Blade Itself. So The Blade Itself is the first book in the First Law trilogy and First Law world, I think, which is fantasy, and it's like pretty dark. And honestly, I've only heard like amazing things about this book and like about this series in general, and I've heard it's like really dark, really brutal, and I've been wanting to read it for a while. Like I've had these books for a while as well, and I was very excited to finally get into them because they sound like something that I would absolutely love. And I just want to warn you that there are definitely spoilers in this video, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so I am on page 172 of The Blade Itself, and that is like 1/3 into the book. And I'm really liking it. And honestly, like for a while, like maybe the first 20%, I didn't even really know like what the plot of this book was gonna be. I was just, vibing with the characters doing whatever they were doing because I didn't really know exactly where we were going. But now I think I know where we were going, maybe, possibly. And so we actually start this book by following Logan. And I don't really know how to, like, if I'm saying the names of the characters right, because fantasy names are, tough. But it's like Logan, but it's not with an A, it's with an E, like Logen. But I'm assuming it's Logan because I don't know like how else to say it, that name. So I'm gonna say with Logan. So we start following Logan and he's like running for his life, and we learn that he has like lost seemingly everyone that he cared about, and he was like, he's a good fighter, and he also has lost a finger. He's called like Logan Nine Fingers and also Bloody Nine, I think. And yeah, so he's like running for his life, and then he's like in the woods, and he talks with the spirits, and the spirits tell him that like a magus called Bias, like he's supposedly the first of the magi or like sorcerers, he is looking for him. And then he finds, a guy finds him there in the woods, and he's apparently Bias's apprentice, and he's gonna take him to Bias. And he, like the apprentice, he's like really, really sick. And so like Logan has to kind of like carry him all the way to Bias. And then they do get there, and like Bias is an absolute icon. Like I love him so much. He is truly iconic. And so like he's there with Bias. And then before we continue with that, I feel like I need to talk about the other character that we're following. We're following a few, but like the other main one that I have the most to talk about. So his name is Glokta, possibly. He's an inquisitor, and he like basically being an inquisitor, he kind of tortures people for answers to, and he works for the inquisitors of like the Union, and he's like getting answers, and he himself has like been tortured, I think, for 2 years. And he like, when he's first described, they talk about him like really struggling to make like literally any movement, and like especially like, going up and down the stairs. And I thought he was like old, but apparently he's 35. So, and I have obviously never been tortured, and I myself like sometimes struggle to move and go up and down the stairs. So I shouldn't have been that shocked, and I'm only 26. So, but yeah, he's 35. He is in a lot of pain. He like was tortured, like I said. He has like half of his teeth were taken out. And like he says, he has half of his teeth, but none of them are like useful, because like where they left the top teeth, they took the bottom ones, and where they left the bottom ones, they took the top ones. So he doesn't have like any two teeth, like there are the top and the bottom ones. So, he kind of can't eat anything that's not like soft or like soup, But anyway, I digress. He is getting answers, and the like powers are sort of shifting, and like his boss wants him to get like some specific people like added into other people's confessions so they can go after those people specifically. And yeah, like he gets to like the people that they're going after and find that they're already dead. So like someone is going after the people that they want to arrest slash get answers from slash just get. So they know that someone probably on the inside is betraying them and they're trying to figure out who that is. And there are also some other characters that we're following that are like connected to the king of the union. And there's also a like kind of, again, if I understood correctly, like a self-proclaimed king in the north. He calls himself the king of the Northmen, and he is like, he goes talk to the king of the union and he wants to get England, I think, which is like on the north, but it's part of the union, and he wants to get England and he's like ready to go to war to get it. And then the like that guy, the king of the Northmen, he goes visit the place where the like Logan and the Magi are, and he's talking to Bias, and Bias is telling him that basically he just wants to get England, not just to like liberate the North people from there as he claims, but because like the clans that he's ruling over, they don't get along. And so that is a way for them to unite, to have like a common enemy to fight the Union, because they don't get along and they also will not like have him as king for long or something like that. And like honestly, Bias is, like I said, such an icon. The king of the Northmen wants Bias to like be on his side because he's either like with him or against him. And Bias is against him, basically. He first says that he's like with him, but he's lying and he's against him, and he's an icon. And that is like pretty much where I'm at. There was like just something that the guy who was like sick in the woods, he was saying, like the apprentice, he said the first law, which is like the name of this series. So, you know, I guess that's important. It's forbidden to touch the other side, to speak with devils. The creatures of the world below are made of lies. You mustn't do it. And Logan was just like, okay. So I'm guessing that is gonna be important. But yeah, I'm still, you know, very confused about this world as a whole. I'm still very like, you know, trying to understand what's happening, getting into it. But I'm really liking it. Like I said, we are following other characters, and there's also like one here in the back. And that one I really don't know how to say his name. Gezel, Gezal. He's also like here in the back, and like we have been following him. But so far, like I'm not as interested in his plots as I am with like Logan and Bias and Glokta. Glokta. Those are the ones that I'm like really interested in following, and I'm really liking it. I'm really liking the characters. I'm really liking the sort of humor that we're already getting. And honestly, there have already been some like brutal scenes, which I knew going into this book that it was gonna be like pretty violent, pretty brutal. And I mean, I guess you can tell from the cover. And also I'm using this bookmark, which I feel like is appropriate. My bestie gave it to me, and like, you know, I feel like it's very appropriate and it kind of like matches the book cover, you know? So yeah, I'm also really liking all of those action fight scenes as well. And yeah, I'm very invested. I'm very intrigued. I'm really liking the characters. I'm really liking everything. So yeah, I'm gonna obviously keep reading it, and I will be back once I read another third, probably. Okay, so I am now on page 344 of the book, which is this much, which is 2/3. And they talk again about the first law, which they talk about the first law and the second law, actually. And the first law, which it's like what we already have kind of talked, but, you know, not in a fever dream. And it says, the first law, it's forbidden to speak with devils. Yeah, Bias says, the first law must apply to all without exception, as must the second, which is, it's forbidden to eat the flesh of men, which will come up a little later on. And so they are like in the woods, and they are like attacked by some men, and like Logan fights them off, and Bias also like fights with his magic. And then they go on their way to where the council of like the King of the Union is set. And also in the woods, but I'm pretty sure like in another place, there is a woman who is like on a revenge plan, but also kind of like running to make sure people don't catch her. And she's called Pharaoh, maybe. And she is found by a guy who seems to want to help her. And he like warns her that people are coming for her. And also he has magic. And we haven't gotten like that much from them. I think she used to be a slave and now like she is wanting revenge on the people who enslaved her, obviously, but we haven't gotten like that much from them. And the others, like Glokta and stuff, they like the people that had like the trade rights for the Union, which were like the people that Glokta's boss was after. So their group is like the Sold, and now the trade rights will remain with the Inquisition until like better candidates come along, which is like I assume what like Glokta's boss wanted. And then Bias gets to like the city, like I said that he was going there, and he wants like his seat back on the council because apparently like it's tradition to leave an empty seat on the council for when Bias, the first of the Magi, comes back. But he's supposedly like been dead for centuries, so no one really believes that he's who he claims to be. And so Glokta's boss wants him to investigate like Bias, or the person they think is pretending to be Bias, and Logan and the apprentice. And while they are like, you know, staying there in the city, there is some creature that attacks Logan, and he doesn't really know like who it is or what it is because he can't really see it clearly. And then like Bias gets there and attacks it with magic, but it might be an eater, which like has already been mentioned. I think it was with the woman in the woods with Pharaoh. Logan is like asking, what is an eater? And I'm like, yes, what is an eater? And I don't know if it's Bias who says it or the apprentice. You must not eat the flesh of men, which is the second law. So there's that. And then there is like a contest of like fencing that one of the characters, Jezel, I still don't know how to say his name, and I probably never will. He has like been practicing for that since the beginning of the book, and the contest has like now started, and he seems to be doing great so far, but I think he has like still 2 more days of the contest or something. And there is a group of men like in the north, and they know Logan, but they think that he's dead. And they hear that the king of the Northmen, Bethod, I think that's his name, they learn that he has like taken his soldiers, like everyone who can fight, to the south to fight the Union. And they are worried because that means now the Shanka can get into their land, into the north. And I think the Shanka are some creatures, like non-human creatures. I think, I'm still not entirely sure either. And like the Shanka were what Logan was like running from in the very beginning of the book. So like I know there are some creatures that are in the north, but I don't really know exactly what they are. But yeah, those guys are afraid that like now that everyone who can fight basically has gone to the south, the Shanka will invade the north and attack them, I think. And the very last thing that we see is that Glokta goes to like the university to learn about like the history basically of Bias and the beginnings of the Union. And like as he was learning, we were also learning, which I appreciated. And basically he has found something that will like either prove that that guy is Bias or not, because it's something that only he should have. And that's where I'm at, and I am still really, really liking it. I am, like I said, I have learned a little bit more about the world. Am I still very confused? Absolutely. Do I know more now than I did before? Yes. And I'm still very curious about like everything and everyone in all the different places and all the different creatures, I guess. I don't know if the eaters are human who like ate the flesh of other humans and became the eaters, since that's the second law. And also the Shanka, I don't really know exactly what they are. But yeah, I'm very curious, I'm very intrigued, I'm very honestly invested in all of the plot lines. The one about like the contest and everything is still the one that I'm the least interested in, but like his friend, Jazel's friend, has gone to, I mean, not has gone, but he was called to go to war, like to the north. And yeah, I'm really liking it. I am like really, really invested. I read a lot yesterday. I read like 200 pages of this book in like 2 sittings because I am absolutely obsessed with this book, and I am like, I want to finish it today. I absolutely am like, I really want to know what's happening and what is going to happen, and the characters are all like very interesting. And yeah. Oh, also, like with Glokta, like after that other group of people, the ones that had the trade rights, they were dissolved. Like the guy that was, I think, in charge of that group, I'm not entirely sure. He told Glokta that like if he wants to actually find people who are, conspiring against the king, he should be looking elsewhere. Like it says, you want criminals, Glokta, you want traitors, enemies of the king and state. Look in the closed council. Look in the house of questions, which is like the thing of the inquisitors. Look in the university. Look in the banks. And like now he knows that like his boss already had like some things planned that he had not shared with him. So I mean, I think he still is pretty sure that he's on the right side, but there's the doubt planted in his head that like he might not be. But yeah, I'm really, really liking it. And like I said, I want to finish it today. I don't know if I will have time because I have quite a lot of things to do today. But yeah, I would absolutely love to because I am really, really loving this. Okay, so I have finished The Blade itself, and I think it was like in the chapter right after I got back into reading after my last update. There are seagulls going insane outside of my house for some reason. Bias had hired Brother Longfoot, who is part of the Order of Navigators, because he wants, a guide to go somewhere that we will learn about later. And then there is like the end of the contest that Jazel is participating in, and Bias actually helps Jazel win the contest, like with magic. He helps him like be stronger and faster and overall better, I guess. And he wins the contest. And then Salt, who is like Glokta's boss, he wants Bias to perform like magic to see if he is actually who he claims to be, like to see if he is actually the first of the Magi. And Bias, like, instead of performing magic, because he says that like he's not, he doesn't just perform magic to show other people. He shows like the key to the house of the maker, which is the thing that only he would have, the thing that I said Glokta had found out that only Bias would have. And so he shows the key of the house of the maker. But then, like, at the end of the chapter, he says, so it is, so it is. I do declare, you really won't be happy until I've broken some furniture. I would hate to spill everyone's soup, though. So, with a sudden bang, the Archlector's chair collapsed. The Archlector, who is Salt. His hand shot out and grabbed at the tablecloth as he plunged to the floor in a clattering mess of loose firewood and sprawled in the wreckage with a groan. The king started awake, his gaze blinked and gasped and stared. Bias ignored them. This really is an excellent soup, he said, slurping noisily from his spoon. So he continues to be an icon. And now, like, I'm not really sure if he's a good person. Like, I'm not really sure about that anymore. Because he is acting pretty suspicious and he's, like, not telling people, like, what he is really after. So I'm suspicious of him. I don't really know if he's a good person, but he's still an icon. Like, that hasn't changed. And so the next day they do go to the house of the maker, and like it has been closed for centuries because only Bias had the key, and no one even really knew that there was a key. But now they know, and Bias opens the house of the maker, and they make it inside, and he takes something that he says is, or like could be, a weapon. And he also says that like the Shanka are the maker's work, so like the maker created the Shanka. He says, to fight his war against us, against the Magi, against his brother Juvens, he bred the first Shanka here and let them loose upon the world, to grow and breed and destroy. That was their purpose. For many years after Canedia's death, we hunted them, but we could not catch them all. We drove them into the darkest corners of the world, and there they have grown and bred again, and now come forth to grow and breed and destroy as they were always meant to do. So I still don't know exactly what they are, like in terms of, what they look like. Maybe it was described and I either missed it or forgot, but I know they were created to destroy, which is in fact what they seem to do. And then Pharaoh and Yulwei, they keep on fighting the eaters that they find along the way. And then Yulwei takes her to the capital and takes her to Bias, because Bias apparently needs her for like his plan. And he doesn't say like exactly what his plan is, like exactly what he wants. He just tells him that he wants to go to the edge of the world, which is why he needs the navigator, and he needs some of Pharaoh's talents. And he promises her that what he's gonna do will get her the revenge that she wants. So she agrees to go with them. And then he is discussing with Yulwei, because they're both magi. And Yulwei is like telling him that he wants to break the first law because Khalul broke the second. Khalul being the guy that is in charge of the eaters. So I'm assuming Khalul was also one of the magi, he used to be a magus as well. And yeah, basically Bias wants to break the first law, so he wants to communicate with the other side, with devils. And then he wants Jazel to go with them as well, to the edge of the world, whatever that is. West, who is Jazel's friend, is going to the north to fight Bethan and his army. And then we learn that Glokta is going south to find out what happened to the Inquisitor that was there at the south. And the south is where he was tortured, so he doesn't really want to go, but also he doesn't really have much of a choice, so he goes. And yeah, that is how the book ends. Basically, they're all going to different places. And so let's go into my final thoughts. So I really, really love this book. And starting off with the characters, they were all definitely very complex. And starting off with Logan, because we started the book off with him. And I really like to start with him. I really like to start following him. And I do really like him in general, but he seems to be maybe too trusting, he's just going with the flow. He's just going with Bias, not really knowing what he wants. From the beginning of the book, Bias was looking for him, and Logan didn't even want to know why. He doesn't want to know Bias's plan. He's just going. He's just going with the flow. But yeah, I do really like him. I think he's the one character so far, the only one that I just like. I have no mixed feelings about him. He's so far, I think, the only one that I just like. And then Bias, like I said, he's iconic, absolutely. Everything he says, everything he does is absolutely iconic, but I don't trust him anymore. In the beginning, I thought he was just absolutely on the right side doing the right thing, but now I don't trust him because he's just suspicious. But he's still iconic, and he's definitely a very interesting character. Jazel, I just don't like him. He's very annoying. He's very cocky. He is just not fun. I don't like him at all. Maybe he will have a sort of redemption story, I guess. But so far, I don't like him. And his friend West, I actually did like him throughout most of the book until he hurt his sister. So there was that. And Glokta, he's the character that I am the most confused about. I have the most mixed feelings about. I don't know how to feel about him, because sometimes he seems like a really bad guy and other times he seems like a really good guy. And I think he himself is confused about why he's doing what he's doing and what he really, who he really is. And I don't think he's a bad person, but I don't think he also had much of a choice after he was tortured. And yeah, he seems to also be having, he's conflicted, I think, as well. But yeah, the characters are very interesting, and I really liked following them and, seeing the world through them. And the world, I also really liked. The world building was really fun as well, and I really like the politics in the different areas and the different, also, creatures that exist in the different areas of this world. And I also really like the magic. And, I don't fully understand this world yet, definitely not, but I'm also not as lost as I was before, so that is great. And there were a lot of great action scenes and like fight scenes, and they were definitely very like gruesome and brutal, but that is exactly like what I wanted from them, so I absolutely love that as well. And yeah, like I was very invested the whole time, honestly. Like, I mean, especially after I really started to understand what was happening, but yeah, I was very invested. I was really interested the whole time. It just didn't give me like the 5-star feelings, but other than that, like I absolutely loved it. So I am giving it 4.5 stars. And yeah, that is it for this book. That is it for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!